Welcome back, folks, on YouTube. This is David here with another video. Today I'm bringing you two great big thrower flashlights that are very similar to one another. I've got the Niwalker BK-FA09s, and that is this one here, and then I've got the Acebeam K70, and that's there. It's hard to ignore that these two lights are very similar in a lot of regards. In terms of output specification, rated lumens, rated throw, they're very, very close. The overall design, they're both very large lights to carry around with you. They both have the magnetic control ring interface for controlling your output, have the rear off and on tail clickies if you want to have the light completely off. Both of those have that feature. Even the sort of lettering, the writing that's on the light, here we have just sort of minimalistic Niwalker on one side, and it says a Vostro model number on the other side. This one K70, Acebeam on the other side. Acebeam has a little indicator there and the standby strobe to show you where your position is for the magnetic control ring. There's a few differences you can see in the thermal design. The fins on the K70 are there's a lot of these little fins that are pretty deeply cut, and the Niwalker BK-FA09s has just these four big sort of fins here. And you know, I'm not a thermal engineer, I can't tell you which one offhand would be better, but I suspect that the K70 would do a better job with handling heat as far as pulling it away from the LED in use. So we'll go ahead and give that a test, and then we'll see what we get with that. Another difference we have between these two lights is with the control ring. If you look at the K70 here, and we have it all the way turned all the way to the right like this, I have it, and then we count the clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and now it won't go any further, so 7 clicks. With the Niwalker, we have it all the way to the right, and we count the clicks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and no more. So obviously there's fewer. There's actually, what that is a one fewer mode, one fewer output level on the Niwalker, and then the strobe feature. There's a strobe setting on the K70. And we don't have a strobe setting on the Niwalker, but we can, by manipulating the turn ring a certain way, we can activate strobe without having to have it be an actual stop click on the. So that's why we have 2 fewer of the clicks for the Niwalker versus the K70. So we get one more output level here, and then strobe setting, and this one is just you rapidly turn it all the way to the maximum. You go all the way from the left and turn it quickly all the way to the right, and that will activate your strobe for the Niwalker, so there's no need for that setting either on this flashlight. The Niwalker is a little bit smaller in its overall dimension. You know, they're exactly the same as far as the height of these lights, maybe a ½ millimeter more on the K70. If we line it up evenly on my thumb here and then look at the tops, they're just about right the same. If we look at the front, the reflectors, then it seems like the K70 has a bigger reflector, because you can see the Niwalker actually fits inside, but that's not the case. The bezel is larger on the K70, and you can see the reflector. You can see the outline around the edge. You can see the reflector comes inside of the bezel, where on the Niwalker here, you don't see that reflector outline. The reflector is underneath the bezel here. So I've examined them, and the reflector appears to be exactly the same dimension. They look to be very, very, very close to exactly the same. Output levels, so we get a Niwalker, and turn the light on with the click, and that is the standby is all the way to the left here. And we get 3 lumens with the first click. 168, 580, and we get 1280, and then we get the maximum, which is rated 2400 lumens, and it doesn't look like that much here because this black bench absorbs the light. It doesn't reflect off at all, but it's pretty bright. All right, and click that off, and then we'll look at the Acebeam. We get the first mode is the lowest mode, whereas with the Niwalker that would be standby. So we get 1 lumen here with the K70, 70, 450, 1000, 1900, and 2600. And then the next click we get the standby mode, which would be the first click on the Niwalker. And then after standby we get strobe for the K70. And with the Niwalker, to access strobe, we go all the way to the left, and then you just rapidly turn from the left end to the right end, and that'll activate your strobe, and then you can turn it back off there. So you just like that anytime, and that will bring on the strobe mode. So very similar, a couple of differences. And as far as rated output, I tested these just with the maximum output to see what we got, because I think other than that they're going to just be really pretty close and to what the manufacturer ratings are. But for maximum, for the K70 I got 2565, so I got 2565 lumens. And then with the Niwalker I got 2520, so they're very, very close again on what I tested for the turbo output. So 2520 on the Niwalker versus 2565 on the K70. So the battery carriers, as I said, they're 4x18650, and each of these is a 4S configuration, looking at like about 16 volts for each one. And then the K70, we've got just a positive coming in contact with the spring there, and the negative coming from contact with the battery, the end of the battery tube. And then we get just a standard sort of positive with the negative around there, around the ring there, and positive in the center. This one's a little bit different. We got the battery carrier is also the tail switch. So when we pull the tube out of here, we see the tail switch no longer has a click function on it. It's on the tube actually, and when you force that down in there and screw it down tight, then that holds your clicky in there. So it's a little bit different that way. Otherwise we have the positive and then the negative on the top coming in contact with the head of the flashlight. One thing of note, the carrier is rather tight for the BK-FA09s, and a lot of people, I'm not the only one to comment about this, these things are freaking in here. Like, okay, there it goes. They're tight. If you look at this flat top cell, whoops, if you look at the flat top cell, okay, I'm going to put it on that spring there, and look how far it kind of sticks out. And then these springs are tough as nails. They're like pretty tight. I'm pushing pretty hard there. You can see my finger. And so you push that in there and force it in there. And then to get it out, you know, you're like kind of breaking your nail. And I've already wore away at some of the edging on these shrink wraps on my 18650 using this thing. So I just got to be careful. I'm taking a pair of pliers and sort of just squeezed down here. Let's see, I got that. Hold this in place a little bit, you know, squeeze that down and hold it to sort of weaken the springs a bit so that they can flex a little bit easier, and that helps. So I'd recommend doing that maybe first thing if you get one and they're still making them like this. So I got one of the very first ones, so they might have corrected this already. I wouldn't be surprised, but I'd recommend doing that if the springs are very tight. The K70 was kind of the opposite. These ones just kind of flop around. Like you wouldn't have any trouble with your protected cells in here, you know, like see. So yeah, a little bit different there. Somewhere in the middle would have been nice on both of these. With the knurling on these, they're both you get a little bit different type of knurling style for each of these, but they're both equally as sort of grippy, you know. I wouldn't necessarily favor one over the other. And with the control ring, they're both, even though they're different, this one has these nubs on there to help you. I find them both equally as easy to sort of maneuver. I wouldn't I honestly wouldn't favor one over the other. I like them both, the way that the feel, you know, they're both pretty good. Kind of like the look of the K70 with these kind of gnarly looking things, nubs on there. But this is cool too. It's a little bit more reserved. Alright, so I'm set to go with the Niwalker BK-FA09s. I've got 4 Samsung 30Q charged up cells in here, ready to go, set to turbo, and I got the light reader. And anytime the number that you see on this screen, if you add 00 to that number, and then multiply by 0.111, that'll give you the current lumen value for this light. So we'll look at the clock and see what over time sort of how the lumen starts to tick down and what kind of behavior we're looking at and how hot the light gets. I got my thermometer too, so let's get this started. Which button do I push again? Okay. Now at about a minute and a half, I got a maximum of 27.5 C on Celsius for the temperature, and then still looking at about 2,500 lumens. Alright, 3 minutes now, and we've got 36.7 Celsius, and I don't have my other phone with me, so I don't know, I calculate that number times 0.111, maybe 2,400 lumens or 2,300 lumens, around there. At 5 minutes, and we got 45 Celsius there, and still looking at maybe 2250 lumens. 6 minutes now, we've hit 50 Celsius. Okay, it's 6 minutes and 40 seconds, and it just stepped itself down to right around 1300 lumens approximately. So I'm not going to go for the full-on run test, because in order to get an accurate representation for the turbo time run test, we have to shut it off, cool the light down, and then turn it back on again, and then measure the time for each time it's actually in turbo. So since it stepped down, we'll just say it steps down. It kind of steps itself down at about 6 minutes 40 seconds due to the heat. If you're in a cooler environment, that might be different, but here it's about 70 degrees in the room, and that's what we got. So now here we have the K70. We're going to run the exact same test and see what we get. So batteries charged, in turbo, ready to go. So after 1 minute, we're still about 2,500 lumens, and I get about 33 Celsius on the external temperature. So right about 2 minutes, it looks like it stepped down just a little bit to maybe 2,200, you know, right around a little over 2,200 lumens now. Let's see what the temperature says. I got 36.5. 3 minutes now, and it's still about 2,200 lumens, and I've got 38 Celsius. So at 5 minutes now, I got a little over 43 Celsius, and still about 2,200 lumens. So now 10 minutes, and we've got still at 2,150 lumens. So that hasn't stepped down very much from about 2,600 lumens. If you've been using this constantly for that amount of time, and you're at 2,150 lumens down from 2,600 lumens, you're not hurting very bad. And we get the temperature here, what we got, 51 now. So at 15 minutes now, and we got 56 Celsius at the hottest point on the light. The light's still manageable. You can still, like at the handle, it's not too hot to hold. And plus, when you're using this light and actually use the air, the light will heat sink a lot better against your hand. Your hand will pull hot heat away from the light faster than the air contact does in this test. And we still got like about 2,130 lumens going. 20 minutes now, and it's still right at 2,100 lumens. K70 going strong. 25 minutes now, and now we've got about 2,050 lumens and 62 Celsius for the temperature. 30 minutes now, and we've still got over 2,000 lumens. That's 2,040, right around there. And getting hot for the temperature, 64 Celsius. 40 minutes now, and still at 2,000 lumens after 40 minutes continuous on, and the light is really hot. It's 66 Celsius. So yeah, but it's 70 degrees Fahrenheit in the room here. So ordinarily you'd be outdoors, you'd have wind and waving the light around it. You know, it would stay cooler in typical usage than this test. 45 minutes now, still a little over 2,000 lumens on this XHP35HI. And we got scalding 67 Celsius. "50 minutes now, and I decided to help out my K70 a little bit with some canned air. So and then the lumens instantly jumped up a bit, and the temperature now is at, I got 59 here. So I don't want to push my K70 too hard. I know, like, under normal conditions, if I give it a little bit of air, it's more normal conditions, because it would be in the breeze, it would be having your hand to heat sink against, and it wouldn't get quite so hot. So the lumens stepped up. 1 hour now, and I've given it another dose of the canned air here, and the lumens shot up again. 190, that equals exactly 2100 lumens, and the temperature is a little cooler again now, 57. 1 hour 12 minutes now, and it's at 1900, right around 1940 lumens there, and I got it around 57 Celsius. At an hour and 20 minutes now, and it looks like we've stepped down finally some, and what we would have here is 1750 lumens. So right about 90 minutes now, and it's dropped down to about 1200 lumens, and it's doing the flashing for the low battery indicator. So I'm going to call that the end of the test. So these lights are pretty close to being the same thing. I think one pretty important difference to distinguish is that the K70, if you're in a sort of a using this and you're thinking about emergency event like response and having to be out and focused on a job where you cannot like be messing around with your flashlight, the K70 will stay at its turbo for, you know, a good hour, a good solid hour of over 2,000 lumens without ever turning it off, and it should do that no problem. This light is different. It will it has a temperature threshold, and it steps down, as we saw, about 6 minutes, 6.5 minutes, and you know, you can manage that. You can turn it off and turn it, you know, when you hold it in your hand like this, that'll keep it cooler because the heat's transferring into your hand, which is cooler than the light. But you just don't want to, certain circumstances where you would use these lights, you don't want to mess around with something like that if you don't have to. For casual use, or, you know, looking around property and doing things like that where it's not an emergency, either of these lights would work just fine. If you turn the light off for you know, about 30 seconds, it cools down rather significantly, and you can turn it back on and get another few minutes of turbo using this light. It's not a big deal. Most lights typically do that. The Acebeam is a little bit above and beyond. It stays cool and it stays on, and most lights, that's not the norm. This is the exception. So that's really good for the Acebeam. The Niwalker is a little bit smaller, you know, around the dimensions around the head, a little bit more easy if you have a jacket pocket than this K70 would be. So, you know, they're a little bit different. They're very much the same, but they're a little bit different. The lumens were almost identical. I expect the throw. I didn't actually test the lux, but they're very, very close. It's not like you're going to be like, whoa, whoa, that one, I'm so surprised that it beat out so much. This should just be dead on. Durability and design, I would probably go with the K70. For the color temperature, just for the aesthetic look of the light, when you just look at stuff with it, I would pick this one. It would be fairly easy to pick this one over the K70 in that regard. Both of these lights can be purchased at andrewaamanda.com. That is where I just purchased a couple of other lights. I just shot a best offer and did that deal. It's the only place you can go online and have a conversation about price. You look at the price and you think, gee, I don't really want to pay quite that much. You can shoot a best offer and then, you know, quite possibly get it for less. Great place to look for sales too. I always go online and look for sales, different places like, you know, banggood.com or other places like that where you get stuff cheap. But andrewaamanda.com is one of those. I go there and check what's going on for sure. So either of these lights are available from them for purchase in the United States immediately, and you can shoot a best offer on either one of these. Let's see, if you guys would please like and subscribe, and I'll have more videos for you soon. And I've got another one coming up. I'm not going to mention it right now because the last time I mentioned this video I said it was going to be soon, and then it was like longer. It was like 3 weeks ago. So hopefully it won't be that long before my next video. Typically I try not to do that. That's about it. We're going to take these outside and look at these head to head and see what we see. Alright guys, thanks for watching. Alright, so now I've got the K70 and the BK-FA09s, and the Niwalker light is here on the left. That's this one. And then here's the K70 Acebeam. I don't know how much you can tell on the camera with the color temperature, but it is much more neutral with the Niwalker light. So let's take a look over this way, see how that looks. And Acebeam again. I'm looking at this sort of birch looking tree that's straight ahead there. Okay, Niwalker. And K70. Both of them, and a Niwalker. K70. Alright. Now we'll look down this road. I hope no cars come up this way. Alright. This is the Acebeam and a Niwalker. Acebeam. And a Niwalker. There's both of these. Looks like there might be a car coming. And we'll try this over here. Can't seem to find the best spot. Here's the Acebeam. And the Niwalker. Acebeam. Niwalker. Acebeam. Niwalker, and here we go, both of them. The Niwalker on the left and the Acebeam on the right. All right. So here we have more of a range in addition to this foreground with these hanging trees. And then the Niwalker is on the left again. There's just a lot of pollen in the air. It's that season coming on again. Okay, I think that's going to end our comparison here. Thanks for watching, you guys, and please, if you want to see more movies like this, like and subscribe, and I'll be back with more.